so what I want to start doing, sometime maybe this semester or next, I wanted to start doing a little bit more Life 101 videos. I'm teaching a class called Contemporary Math. I teach it fully online. And I feel like my students just they're not getting the help they need. It's a very weird course because it is so much life-based. And it goes through all these different topics that we do have to deal with every day, but we don't actually think about every day. And so I'm going to start doing some more videos like that. Hopefully, it may be this semester, it may be next semester. We're having a bunch of changes here at the college, so I want to wait and see what happens with the book. But here's one that I'm having right now, my students are having a lot of trouble with. And so we have an increase in a dollar amount by a percent. It could be any amount, doesn't have to be a dollar amount. And we have a decrease a dollar amount by a percent. And I forgot its dollar sign. This is like if anything goes on sale. And this would be like if you buy anything and you're trying to resell it, you want to make your money. If you're going to resell something, you don't want to sell it for something less than you paid for it. And so like if you're trying to do DIY and upgrade it, or if you're a small business owner and you're like, okay, I'm bringing these in, I want to increase them by 15% so that I make 15% profit. That's going to be kind of like what this is. So we're going to increase the number by a certain percentage, and we're going to decrease the number by a certain percentage. Increasing would also be like your taxes. If you're increasing a number by the state of Texas, we have 8.25% tax. So that would be increasing by 8.25%. Different states have different taxes. If you have a 6% tax rate, it'd be 6% increase. If you have a 10% tax, it'd be a 10% increase. So that's another place that increasing will come up. My students are currently doing taxes. So I want to do this one for my students, but they're getting into discounts. They do about both the same time. So I want to show them this. There are multiple ways to do these. There is a quote-unquote longer way and then a quote-unquote shorter way. A lot of students tend to love the longer way just because when we were taught this way back when in junior high or such, they taught us the long way. Change the percent to a decimal, multiply by the amount, and then add. But that's 3 steps. What we're going to do is we're going to find the multiplier and then multiply and be done. So it's still pretty much the exact same thing, but instead of the addition being something that we need to do in our calculator, it's now going to be something we can do in our heads. Because all your percents, all of them go around 100%. So when we're increasing something by 15%, that would be like if you're going to add a tip onto it, if you're going to do tax, if you're trying to make a profit, any sort of things can make you increase. I have a lot of people that when we go out to dinner, they try to add a 20% tip. They don't know how to add a 20% tip. And me, being the math person, I'm like, oh, multiply by 1.2. And they're like, where the heck did you get that from? And I'm like, I'm sorry, that's the math person in me. And then I'm like, well, take this and do that and then add some extra to it. Double the tax and add some more to get 20%. And so we're going to do this the short way. Because especially for my students that are doing this, you're going to need to know how to deal with a multiplier. It's going to come in handy for exponentials. It's going to come in handy for pretty much anything. And in the real world, if you're at a store trying to figure out discounts or trying to figure out increases, you're much more likely to do a 1-step process than a 3-step process. Much, much more likely. And I want you to be able to go into a store and be an informed consumer and be able to tell how much money you're spending before the cashier rings it up. Once the cashier starts to ring it up, we feel that pressure. Now we have to buy it because the cashier is staring at us. Sorry, I have anxiety, so to me that's a big deal. But if we're going to increase it by 15%, the first thing you want to do find the multiplier is the word we use. Don't get too hung up on that word. I just misspelled it anyway. Multiplier. What that means is how much percent are we actually paying for? Now I need to pay for 100% of the item, right? I need to pay that $38.92. If I'm going to increase it by an extra 15%, I'm paying for not only that 100%, because I've got to pay for the whole thing, but I'm also paying for an extra 15%. So I'm really going to pay for 115%. But that's math we can do in our head, right? I don't need to write out 100% plus 15% equals 115%. This is the entire price plus the increase. We're going to pay for the whole thing, and we want to pay for a little bit more. So 115%. Then we're going to find (115%) of the price. And this is the type of wording that I like to put on all my tests anytime we're dealing with percents. Anytime we're dealing with pretty much anything, I try to put it a very consistent wording. That way it falls out of it into math form. So 115%, I cannot put that in most calculators. Instead of 115%, I'm going to move the decimal. It's going to be 1.15. That's the decimal equivalent of 115%. In math, the word of normally means multiplication. So I'm going to do a 1.15 times, what's the price we're paying? $38.92. And my calculator, 1.15 times 38.92, enter 44.76. Make sure you round to 2 decimal places with money. Make sure in the USA your dollar signs go up front. And that's a period, not a comma, depending on your culture. Ours in the US is a period, so that's been messing some of my students up. And you're done. Is this more than the original price? Yes, because we should have been increasing it. Be very careful. If you answer that you are going to pay, what, $8 or $6, they're not going to let you buy that item for only $6 when the price tag on it says $38 and they're trying to add more onto it. It's got to be a higher number because you're increasing it. So make sure you use some common sense to make sure your answer actually makes sense. But we're going to multiply that by the multiplier instead, which is 1.15. Okay? So that's how to increase. That's how to add tax. That's how to add a tip. The tip's why I said to 1.2. If we want a 20% tip, we're going to pay for 100% of the bill plus an extra 20%. So it's 100 plus 20, that's 120%. Move your decimal, that's 1.2. Take your bill and multiply the total amount by 1.2. That's going to be your 20% tip, the amount that's your total. Okay? Decreasing a number by 32%. This is like if you walk into any store and they're like, hey, we're having a 32nd anniversary sale. So the entire store is 32% off. Sometimes we get weird numbers like that. One the other day was a 28th anniversary sale. So their whole store was 28% off. I'm like, man, that's a really weird number. And so what we have to do is the same thing as before. First, find the multiplier. We're not going to pay for 100% of this item, right? Because it's decreased. It's on sale. If we pay for 100% of the item, then the cashier wasn't paying attention to their own sales. So instead, we have this 100%. Where's my camera going? 100%. We're going to take off 32%. And so that leaves us with how much percent? We have 100% of the price. That's the entire price. We're going to subtract 32%. That's the discount. Now, I don't know about y'all, maybe because I'm a teacher, I deal with numbers quite often, especially around 30, because that's failing. 70 would be barely passing. So if I'm going to take off 32%, my mind says, well, minus 30 is 70, and minus 2 more would be 68. Your mind may think about that differently. You may want to use your calculator. It all depends. But to me, I look at this and say, okay, 68%. That's the amount I'm actually paying for. Because I want that 100% minus 32. So I'm paying for 68% of this item. So we want to then find 68% of the price. 68% we cannot put in our calculator. Move the decimal 2 places. 0.68. Percent sign's gone because we moved the decimal. The word of, let's multiply. The price, $54.99. Take your calculator. 0.68 times $54.99. $37.39. Remember, rounded 2 decimal places. Dollar sign up front. So if you're in a store and you're like, okay, I have a budget. I do a lot of consignment sales. I do a lot of thrift store shopping. I do a lot of, I'm a teacher's salary and I have a kid. So I've got to pay for daycare and all that. So my money isn't just going all over the place. So I'm always looking around for the best deal. And when I shop for my daughter, I'm like, okay, I can't spend more than, say, $15 on an outfit. It's my absolute max. It's actually much lower than that, but we can use that as an example because I feel like that's more normal than my actual maximum. $15. And so I'm walking around a store and they're like, hey, we have 30% off. I'm like, okay, awesome. So I find this adorable outfit. I look at the price tag. I take my phone out because we all have a calculator on us. And I'm like, okay, $20.99. If it's 30% off, then I have the full price minus 30. That's going to be 0.70. 70%, 0.7. It's $14.69. I can buy it. Awesome. Yay! And so I want to make sure y'all can do that kind of math in stores. I don't expect you to go around to every single price typing it into the calculator because we all hate math and we're not going to do that anyway. But for 1 or 2 items, it's really good to know how these percents work, how these prices work, because stores are really good at manipulating you. If I go for a different career, I'm going into marketing because I'm really good at working with the numbers to manipulate people into doing what I want them to do. Stores know how to do that. If you have this one little tool of knowing how this multiplier works and you're willing to use it, you're going to save yourself so much money because you're not going to fall for their tricks.